If you're over 60 and struggling to open a jar, climb stairs without holding the railing, or getting up from a chair has become surprisingly difficult, your body might be silently screaming for two specific minerals that most people are critically deficient in. What's worse, this deficiency accelerates after 60, and it's directly linked to that frustrating muscle loss that makes you feel weaker every single month. I've seen patients lose their independence, their confidence, and even their will to stay active, all because they didn't know about this simple nighttime protocol. I'm Dr. Michael Turner, and I've been practicing geriatric medicine for over 20 years. Throughout my career, I've witnessed thousands of patients struggle with age-related muscle loss, also known as sarcopenia. But here's what shocked me early in my practice. Many of these cases weren't just about aging. They were about two critical mineral deficiencies that, when corrected, helped my patients regain strength they thought was gone forever. Before we dive deep into this, if you haven't subscribed yet, I strongly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you never miss another health tip designed specifically for you. If you find this video helpful, please leave your questions and video suggestions in the comments. I read every single one, and it helps me create more content to help people just like you. Now let me tell you about Mrs. Margaret Sullivan, a 72-year-old retired teacher from a small town in Ohio. Margaret loved her garden. She'd spend hours tending to her roses, her tomatoes, her herbs, but about 2 years ago, she noticed something disturbing. Her grip wasn't as strong anymore. She'd dropped things. Opening jars became impossible. Then came the falls. Small ones at first. Tripping over nothing, losing balance when reaching for something on a high shelf. Her daughter convinced her to see me after Margaret couldn't get up from her chair without using her arms to push herself up. She came into my office with tears in her eyes, telling me she felt like her body was betraying her. She said, and I'll never forget this, "Doctor, I feel like I'm disappearing, getting smaller and weaker every day." When we ran her blood work, her magnesium and vitamin D levels were critically low. These two minerals working together are absolutely fundamental for muscle function, and most people over 60 are walking around severely deficient without even knowing it. Let me explain why these two minerals are so powerful when taken together, especially at night. Magnesium is involved in over 300 biochemical reactions in your body, but one of its most critical roles is in muscle protein synthesis. This is the process where your body actually builds and repairs muscle tissue. Without adequate magnesium, your muscles simply cannot recover and grow, no matter how much protein you eat or how much you exercise. Think of magnesium as the construction manager at a building site. You can have all the materials in the world, but without a manager to coordinate everything, nothing gets built. Vitamin D, on the other hand, acts like a key that unlocks your muscle cells' ability to absorb nutrients and respond to exercise. It activates specific receptors in your muscle fibers that trigger growth and strength. Together, these two minerals create a synergistic effect that's far more powerful than either one alone. Here's what most doctors don't tell you. As you age, your body becomes less efficient at absorbing these minerals from food. Your digestive system produces less stomach acid. Your kidneys don't convert vitamin D to its active form as effectively. Your skin produces 75% less vitamin D from sunlight compared to when you were in your 20s. This creates a perfect storm of deficiency right when your body needs these minerals the most. And here's the kicker. The early symptoms of deficiency, like fatigue, weakness, and muscle aches, are so easily dismissed as just getting older that most people never investigate further until serious problems develop. Let me share another case that really drives this home. Mr. Robert Chen, a 68-year-old accountant from California, came to me after his wife noticed he was shuffling when he walked. Robert had been a regular swimmer his entire adult life, but over the past year, he'd stopped going to the pool. When I asked why, he said he just didn't have the energy anymore. He'd also been experiencing muscle cramps at night, particularly in his calves, that would wake him up. He told me, "Doctor, I thought this was just my fate. I'm getting old, right? My father was the same way at my age." But when we tested his mineral levels, we found he was severely deficient in both magnesium and vitamin D. His magnesium was barely half of what it should be, and his vitamin D was in the range we typically see in people who are housebound. The fascinating part? Within 6 weeks of starting supplementation, specifically taking these minerals at night, Robert called me excited. He said his cramps were gone, he had more energy during the day, and he'd been back to the pool 3 times that week. By 3 months, his muscle mass measurements showed actual improvement. His grip strength, which we measure with a special device, had increased by 23%. Now, why at night? This is crucial, and it's something that sets this protocol apart. Your body does most of its repair and rebuilding work while you sleep. Growth hormone, which is essential for muscle maintenance, is released primarily during deep sleep. Magnesium helps you achieve deeper, more restorative sleep stages, which means more growth hormone release, which means better muscle repair. It's a beautiful cycle. Vitamin D also plays a role in sleep quality, and research suggests that taking it in the evening can actually improve sleep architecture, meaning you spend more time in those crucial deep sleep stages where muscle repair happens. Additionally, magnesium has a calming effect on your nervous system, which helps reduce the nighttime cortisol spike that many older adults experience. High cortisol at night breaks down muscle tissue, so by keeping cortisol in check with magnesium, you're protecting the muscle you already have while building new tissue. Let me explain this cortisol connection in more detail because it's absolutely critical, and most people don't understand how devastating chronically elevated cortisol can be for muscle tissue. Cortisol is your stress hormone, and while it's necessary for many functions, when it's elevated at the wrong times, particularly at night, it becomes catabolic. That means it literally breaks down your muscle tissue to convert it into glucose for energy. This is a survival mechanism that made sense when our ancestors faced genuine emergencies. But in modern life, chronic stress keeps cortisol elevated constantly. For people over 60, this problem is often worse because the body's natural cortisol rhythm becomes disrupted with age. You're supposed to have high cortisol in the morning to help you wake up and feel energized. Then it should gradually decline throughout the day, reaching its lowest point at night. But many older adults have a flattened cortisol curve, with levels staying elevated into the evening and nighttime hours. This is disastrous for muscle maintenance. While you're sleeping, when your body should be repairing and building muscle, elevated cortisol is actively tearing it down. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much protein you eat or how hard you exercise, if cortisol is elevated at night, you're fighting an uphill battle. This is where magnesium becomes so powerful. Magnesium helps regulate your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is the system that controls cortisol production. By taking magnesium before bed, you're helping to calm the system down, allowing cortisol to drop to its natural nighttime low. This creates a hormonal environment that's conducive to muscle repair and growth rather than muscle breakdown. I've had patients test their cortisol levels throughout the day, and after implementing the nighttime magnesium protocol, their evening cortisol levels normalized within just a few weeks. The difference in how they felt was remarkable. Mr. William Foster, a 69-year-old insurance agent from Pennsylvania, is a perfect example of this. William came to me complaining of terrible sleep. He'd wake up multiple times every night, often around 3 or 4 in the morning, feeling wired and anxious despite being exhausted. He'd lie awake for hours, his mind racing, unable to fall back asleep. During the day, he felt fatigued and noticed his muscle tone was deteriorating despite trying to stay active. He told me, "Dr. Turner, I feel like I'm aging in dog years. Every month I look in the mirror and see less muscle, more flab. I'm eating well, I'm trying to exercise, but my body just looks deflated." When we ran a cortisol test that measured his levels at 4 different times throughout the day, we found his morning cortisol was actually lower than it should be, but his evening and nighttime cortisol were significantly elevated. This inverted pattern was wrecking his sleep and destroying his muscle tissue. We implemented the nighttime mineral protocol, focusing particularly on adequate magnesium, and within 6 weeks, William's sleep transformed. He was sleeping through the night, waking up feeling refreshed. After 3 months, he'd regained visible muscle tone in his arms and legs. He told me, "I didn't realize how much my stress hormones were sabotaging everything else I was trying to do." Getting my cortisol under control was the missing piece. If you're still watching and finding this information valuable, commenting "yes" below to show me you're following along. This helps me know what content resonates with you. But here's where it gets even more interesting, and this is something that surprised even me when I first learned about it in medical literature. The type of magnesium you take matters tremendously. Not all magnesium supplements are created equal, and this is where a lot of people waste their money and wonder why they're not seeing results. There are several forms of magnesium: magnesium oxide, magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, magnesium threonate, and others. The form determines how well your body absorbs it and what effects it has. Magnesium oxide, which is the cheapest and most common form you'll find in drugstores, has a bioavailability of only about 4%. That means if you take a 500 milligram pill, your body only absorbs about 20 milligrams. The rest ends up in your toilet, often causing diarrhea in the process. Magnesium glycinate, on the other hand, has a bioavailability of around 50% and doesn't cause digestive upset because it's bound to the amino acid glycine. For muscle building and sleep specifically, magnesium glycinate is ideal because glycine itself promotes better sleep and muscle recovery. I learned this lesson the hard way with Mrs. Dorothy Martinez, a 75-year-old former dance instructor from Texas. Dorothy came to me frustrated because she'd been taking magnesium supplements for months after reading about them online, but she wasn't seeing any improvement in her muscle strength. In fact, she was having persistent diarrhea. When I asked to see what she was taking, she showed me a bottle of magnesium oxide she'd bought from a discount store. I explained the absorption issue, and we switched her to magnesium glycinate. Within 2 weeks, her digestive problems resolved, and within 6 weeks, she started noticing real improvements. She told me, "Dr. Turner, I can go up and down stairs now without my legs shaking. I can stand from sitting without using my hands. I feel like I have my body back." Her case taught me that patient education about supplement quality is just as important as the recommendation itself. Similarly, with vitamin D, the form and dosage matter. Most people need vitamin D3, also called cholecalciferol, rather than vitamin D2, which is less effective at raising blood levels. The dosage is also highly individual and should ideally be determined by blood testing. I typically see optimal muscle function when vitamin D blood levels are between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter, but many of my patients over 60 come in with levels below 20. Getting from 20 to 50 might require 2,000 to 5,000 international units daily for several months, then a maintenance dose. Some people need even more, especially if they have darker skin, live in northern climates, or spend most of their time indoors. But if that surprised you, wait until you hear about the timing interaction between these two minerals. This is something that even many doctors don't fully appreciate. Magnesium is required for vitamin D to be converted into its active form in your body. Without adequate magnesium, taking vitamin D supplements might not give you the full benefit because your body can't properly activate it. This is why I always recommend taking them together and why the nighttime protocol is so powerful. You're giving your body both minerals simultaneously during the time when muscle repair is at its peak and ensuring that the vitamin D can be properly activated and utilized. Let me tell you about Mr. James Patterson, a 66-year-old mechanic from Michigan who really illustrates this point. James had been taking vitamin D supplements for over a year because his doctor told him he was deficient. He was taking 5,000 units every morning, and when his levels were retested, they'd barely budged. He was frustrated and confused. Why wasn't it working? When he came to see me for an unrelated issue, I checked his magnesium levels and found them to be very low. I explained the connection, and we added magnesium glycinate to his evening routine while keeping the vitamin D. 6 weeks later, we retested his vitamin D levels, and they had increased significantly. James was amazed. He said, "I'd been taking vitamin D for a year with almost no improvement, and now with magnesium added, it finally works." But more importantly, he started noticing real physical changes. His chronic muscle soreness decreased, his energy improved, and he was able to work full days in his shop without the exhaustion that had been plaguing him. Now, I need to address something important about muscle loss in people over 60. Sarcopenia, the medical term for age-related muscle loss, is not inevitable. Yes, there are natural changes that occur with aging, but much of what we attribute to just getting old is actually preventable and even reversible. Studies have shown that adults can build muscle at any age, even into their 80s and 90s, if they provide their bodies with the right building blocks and stimulus. These two minerals are foundational building blocks, but they work best as part of a comprehensive approach that includes adequate protein intake and some form of resistance exercise. Here's what I recommend to my patients, and this is the exact protocol that helped Margaret, Robert, Dorothy, and James regain their strength and independence. First, get your levels tested. A simple blood test can measure your magnesium and vitamin D levels. This gives you a baseline and helps determine the right dosage for you. Standard ranges aren't always optimal ranges, so work with a healthcare provider who understands functional medicine and optimal aging. Second, for most people over 60, I recommend starting with 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate taken 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Start with a lower dose and work up gradually to avoid any digestive adjustment. For vitamin D, most people benefit from 2,000 to 5,000 international units taken with the magnesium in the evening, but this should be individualized based on your blood levels. Third, and this is crucial, these minerals work best when combined with adequate protein intake. I recommend 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight daily, spread throughout the day. Your muscles need amino acids to rebuild, and minerals help facilitate that process. Fourth, incorporate some form of resistance training 2 to 3 times per week. This doesn't mean you need to join a gym or lift heavy weights. Resistance bands, bodyweight exercises, or even chair exercises can provide enough stimulus to trigger muscle growth when combined with proper nutrition and supplementation. The stimulus tells your muscles they need to adapt and grow, while the minerals provide the tools to make that growth happen. But here's something that often gets overlooked, and it's a mistake I see frequently in my practice. People start taking these supplements and expect overnight miracles. Muscle building is a gradual process, especially after 60. You didn't lose your muscle overnight, and you won't rebuild it overnight either. Most of my patients start noticing improvements in energy and sleep within 2 to 3 weeks. Improvements in strength and muscle function typically become apparent within 6 to 8 weeks. Measurable increases in muscle mass usually take 3 to 6 months of consistent supplementation combined with proper nutrition and exercise. Let me tell you about Mrs. Helen Rodriguez, a 70-year-old retired librarian from Florida who almost gave up too soon. Helen started the mineral protocol after struggling with weakness and fatigue for over a year. She was diligent about taking her supplements every night, but after 3 weeks, she called my office frustrated. She said she didn't feel any different and wanted to stop. I encouraged her to stick with it for at least 8 weeks, explaining that some people respond faster than others. She reluctantly agreed. At 6 weeks, she called again, but this time her tone was completely different. She was excited. She'd started noticing she had more energy during the day. Her afternoon fatigue had decreased. She was sleeping more soundly. By 12 weeks, she told me something that brought tears to my eyes. "Dr. Turner, I played with my grandchildren on the floor yesterday. I got down on the carpet with them, and when it was time to get up, I just stood up. I didn't need help. I didn't need to grab onto furniture. I just stood up like it was nothing. I haven't been able to do that in 3 years. This is why I do what I do." There are also some important considerations about interactions and contraindications that you need to be aware of. If you're taking certain medications, particularly diuretics, some antibiotics, or medications for osteoporosis, they can interact with magnesium and vitamin D supplementation. Some diuretics can either deplete magnesium or cause magnesium to build up to dangerous levels, depending on the type. Vitamin D can interact with certain heart medications and steroids. This is why it's absolutely essential to work with your healthcare provider before starting any supplement regimen, especially if you're on multiple medications. Additionally, if you have kidney disease, magnesium supplementation can be dangerous because your kidneys may not be able to excrete excess amounts properly. If you have certain types of heart block or other heart rhythm issues, high doses of magnesium can worsen these conditions. I also want to address a common concern I hear. Can you get enough of these minerals from food alone? In theory, yes. In practice, for most people over 60, it's very difficult. Magnesium-rich foods include dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and dark chocolate. To get 300 milligrams of magnesium from food, you'd need to eat about 2 cups of cooked spinach or a quarter cup of pumpkin seeds or 3 ounces of dark chocolate daily. Vitamin D is even more challenging. Very few foods naturally contain significant amounts of vitamin D. Fatty fish like salmon and mackerel are among the best sources, but you'd need to eat 3 to 4 ounces of salmon daily to get about 600 international units, which is still less than many people over 60 need. Fortified foods help, but rarely provide enough. Sun exposure can generate vitamin D, but as I mentioned earlier, your skin's ability to produce vitamin D from sunlight decreases dramatically with age, and factors like sunscreen use, geographic location, time of year, and skin color all affect production. But there's another factor that makes getting these minerals from food alone particularly challenging for people over 60, and it's something that doesn't get discussed enough in mainstream medicine: digestive changes that come with age. Your stomach produces less hydrochloric acid as you age, which is necessary for breaking down food and extracting minerals. Your intestinal lining becomes less efficient at absorbing nutrients. Many people over 60 are taking medications like proton pump inhibitors for heartburn or acid reflux, and these medications, while helpful for managing symptoms, dramatically reduce your ability to absorb magnesium and other minerals from food. Additionally, many common medications prescribed to older adults, including diuretics for blood pressure, can actually deplete magnesium from your body. So even if you're eating a perfect diet rich in these minerals, your body may not be extracting and retaining them effectively. Let me tell you about Mrs. Patricia Williams, a 73-year-old retired accountant from Colorado who illustrates this perfectly. Patricia was meticulous about her health. She ate an impeccable diet, rich in vegetables, nuts, seeds, and fish. She took no shortcuts, bought organic produce, prepared everything fresh. She exercised regularly, took walks every day, did yoga twice a week. By all accounts, she was doing everything right. Yet when she came to see me, she was experiencing significant muscle weakness, particularly in her legs. She had also been having heart palpitations, muscle twitches, and severe leg cramps at night that would wake her up screaming. She was frustrated and scared. She said, "Dr. Turner, I've done everything the books and articles tell you to do. I eat better than anyone I know. Why is my body falling apart?" When we ran her blood work, her magnesium was critically low. The reason? She'd been taking a proton pump inhibitor for acid reflux for over 5 years, and nobody had ever told her it would interfere with mineral absorption. Additionally, she was on a diuretic for mild high blood pressure, which was causing her to excrete even more magnesium through her urine. It was a perfect storm of depletion. We addressed her medications, finding alternatives where possible, and started her on a high-quality magnesium supplement along with vitamin D. The transformation was dramatic. Within 3 weeks, her muscle cramps stopped completely. Within 2 months, her heart palpitations resolved. By 4 months, her muscle strength had improved significantly, and she was back to her regular exercise routine, feeling stronger than she had in years. She told me tearfully, "I thought I was losing my mind. I was doing everything right, or so I thought, but my body kept getting worse. I'm so grateful we figured out what was really going on." Mr. Thomas Anderson, a 63-year-old engineer from Washington State, tried to get all his nutrients from food alone because he was philosophically opposed to supplements. He ate an excellent diet rich in vegetables, fish, nuts, and seeds, but when we tested his levels, his vitamin D was 21 and his magnesium was borderline low. He lived in Seattle, which doesn't get much sun, especially in winter, and even his wonderful diet couldn't overcome that environmental factor. Once he accepted that targeted supplementation made sense in his situation, his health improved dramatically. He told me, "I was being stubborn about this, thinking supplements were somehow cheating or unnatural. But now I understand they're just a tool to overcome limitations in our modern lifestyle and environment." Now, what about side effects and safety? When taken appropriately, magnesium glycinate and vitamin D3 are very safe for most people. The most common side effect of magnesium is loose stools, but this is much less common with glycinate form compared to other forms. If you do experience this, reduce your dose and increase gradually. Some people experience mild drowsiness from magnesium, which is actually why it's perfect to take before bed. Very high doses of magnesium, usually above 600 milligrams daily from supplements, can cause more serious side effects like low blood pressure, slowed heart rate, or confusion, but these are rare when following reasonable supplementation guidelines. With vitamin D, toxicity is also rare but can occur with very high doses taken over extended periods. Symptoms of vitamin D toxicity include nausea, vomiting, weakness, and frequent urination. However, toxicity typically only occurs with doses above 10,000 international units daily taken for months, well above what I recommend for most patients. There's also an important discussion we need to have about the relationship between vitamin D, calcium, and vitamin K2. Many people don't realize that when you supplement with vitamin D, your body increases calcium absorption from your diet. This is generally good for bone health, but there's a catch. The calcium needs to be directed to your bones and teeth, not to your soft tissues like arteries, kidneys, or heart. This is where vitamin K2 comes in. Vitamin K2 activates proteins that shuttle calcium into bones and teeth while preventing it from depositing in soft tissues, where it can cause problems like arterial calcification. If you're taking higher doses of vitamin D, especially above 2,000 international units daily, it's wise to also take vitamin K2, typically in the MK7 form, at a dose of around 100 to 200 micrograms daily. This creates a synergistic trio. Magnesium activates vitamin D increases calcium absorption, and vitamin K2 ensures that calcium goes where it should. I learned about the critical importance of this combination through Mr. Edward Martinez, a 71-year-old retired police officer from Arizona. Edward had been taking high-dose vitamin D, around 6,000 units daily, for almost 2 years because his doctor had found he was severely deficient. His vitamin D levels had improved nicely, but he started developing kidney stones, which he'd never had before in his life. He passed 3 kidney stones over the course of 18 months, each episode excruciatingly painful. When he came to me for a second opinion, we reviewed everything he was taking. He was getting plenty of vitamin D, his magnesium levels were decent, but nobody had ever mentioned vitamin K2 to him. The calcium from his improved vitamin D absorption was being deposited in his kidneys rather than his bones. We added vitamin K2 to his regimen and adjusted his mineral balance. Over the following 2 years, he hasn't had a single kidney stone. He told me, "Dr. Turner, I was about to stop taking the vitamin D because I thought it was causing the stones. I'm so glad we figured out it wasn't the vitamin D itself. But the missing piece of the puzzle, now I'm getting all the benefits without the problems." The beautiful thing about this protocol is how simple it is, yet how profound the effects can be. 2 minerals, taken at night, creating a foundation for your body to rebuild and maintain muscle tissue while you sleep. It's not magic, it's just good science applied practically. But simplicity doesn't mean it's not powerful. I've watched patients transform their lives with this approach. I've seen people regain their independence, their confidence, their ability to do the things they love. Mrs. Ruth Thompson, an 81-year-old widow from Georgia, is one of my favorite success stories. Ruth had become increasingly isolated because she was afraid of falling. She'd stopped going to her church group, stopped meeting friends for lunch, stopped doing her grocery shopping. She felt trapped in her own home, weak and frightened. Her daughter brought her to see me, worried about her mother's declining mental state along with her physical decline. When we addressed Ruth's severe magnesium and vitamin D deficiencies, along with encouraging gentle exercise and better protein intake, the changes were remarkable. 6 months later, Ruth was back at church every Sunday, meeting friends twice a week, and had even started taking a gentle yoga class at the senior center. She told me with the biggest smile, "Dr. Turner, you gave me my life back. I have my strength back. But more than that, I have my courage back. I'm not afraid anymore." As we wrap up, I want you to understand that muscle loss after 60 is not a life sentence. Yes, aging presents challenges, but many of those challenges can be met and overcome with the right approach. These two minerals, magnesium and vitamin D, are not miracle cures, but they are foundational elements that your body absolutely requires to build and maintain muscle tissue. When deficient in these minerals, which most people over 60 are, your body simply cannot function optimally no matter what else you do right. Here's what I want you to take away from this. First, if you're over 60 and experiencing weakness, fatigue, muscle loss, or frequent falls, talk to your doctor about testing your magnesium and vitamin D levels. Second, if you're deficient targeted supplementation, specifically magnesium glycinate and vitamin D3 taken together at night, can make a significant difference in your muscle health and overall quality of life. Third, supplements work best as part of a comprehensive approach that includes adequate protein, some form of resistance exercise, and overall healthy lifestyle habits. Fourth, give it time. Muscle building is a gradual process, but consistency pays off. And fifth, always work with a qualified healthcare provider to determine the right doses for your individual situation and to monitor for any potential interactions with medications you're taking. You deserve to live your later years with strength, independence, and vitality. You deserve to play with your grandchildren, to travel, to pursue hobbies, to maintain your home, to feel capable and confident in your body. Muscle loss doesn't have to be your fate. Armed with the right knowledge and the right tools, you can fight back against sarcopenia and reclaim your strength. If you found this information valuable, please share it with someone who might benefit from it. Leave a comment below telling me about your experience with muscle loss or sharing your questions. I read every comment and use your feedback to create more content that helps you live your healthiest life. And remember, before starting any new supplement regimen, always consult with your healthcare provider to ensure it's safe and appropriate for your individual situation. Your health is worth investing in, and sometimes that investment is as simple as 2 minerals taken every night before bed. Thank you for watching, and here's to your health and strength at every age.